The U.S. is in crisis in many areas, including large U.S. corporations. For example, the Boeing crash, a door flies off, a wheel falls off. Also, with the U.S. Navy, there's a lot of ships out there that can only be cut up for metal now. But first things first, let's start with the Navy. The U.S. Navy faced financial constraints. Pentagon, having dramatically revised its views on modern warfare with an equally powerful adversary, diverts some funds to the Army and Air Force, while the Navy, conversely, slashes programs and saves on maintenance. According to the draft defense budget for FY25, the Pentagon will receive $850 billion, of which the Navy has requested $257 billion, a colossal sum comparable to the budget of the entire People's Liberation Army of China. And yet even sailors have to shrink. Most of that money will be used for cleanup and technical work. Many ships and shipyards require serious repairs. Only the financing of the maritime component of the nuclear triad, including the construction of the Columbia-class strategic nuclear-powered advanced nuclear-powered ship, will not be cut. It will cost $14 billion, the next in the project at $6 billion each. The budgets for the Takamu strategic system, which provides command communications to nuclear submarines during nuclear warfare, are also untouched. Total cost of the shipbuilding program for FY25, $32 billion, $400 million less than FY24. One of the two Virginia-type multipurpose nuclear-powered submarines went under the knife, two Ellerberg-type destroyers, a Constellation frigate, the versatile amphibious assault ship San Antonio, and one medium-sized amphibious assault ship that had just begun construction. However, there was a problem with the towed hydroacoustic station for Constellation, USA. No one could do the project, so we had to order it from France. Funding for the advanced 6th-generation FAXX deck fighter program has been cut 3 times. They'll spend $1.5 billion on it this year, $500 million next year. The sequel follows. Pentagon plans call for this aircraft to retire the older FA-18 Super Hornet to serve alongside the F-35C as the Navy's primary tactical aviation vehicles through the 2030s. But when he'll be in the lineup is unknown. The design of the LUSF large uncrewed surface vehicle was also shifted to the right. The Pentagon expects to receive the first one in 2025, 2 more in 26, and 3 each in 27 and 28. Now everything has been put off for 2 years. Meanwhile, LUSF, an important link in the U.S. concept of the fleet of the future, it was assigned the role of a floating arsenal that struck targets indicated from shore or another ship. It's a confusing situation, and aircraft carriers. The order of the next, still designated as CVN 82 project of General Ford, 28 fiscal year shifted as far back as 2030. Accordingly, they will extend the service lives of Nimic aircraft carriers, which were to be decommissioned as early as 2023. 2 from the exquisite ones. And Vinhor has already been left as a menu until the 26th, replenishing the fleet with 6 pennants. In 2025, the Navy wants to cut as many as 19 ships. Of those, 9 will be taken out of state early, with another 10 in Fland. The list expectedly included 2 Ticonderoga-type missile cruisers, Shiloh and Lake Erie. These veterans are in their 30s, retirement age for the Navy. And maintaining one such ship, as previously reported by the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations, Vice Admiral Jim Kilby, costs the budget $400 million annually. The remaining 13 ships will also soon be moved to the reserve. There have been discussions in Washington about extending the cruiser's service life to 52 years. They were going to fix cracks in the hull on some pennants, upgrade the onboard electronics, and fix the propulsion system on others. However, Brian Clark, an analyst at the U.S. Navy's Center for Strategic and Budgetary Assessments, believes this is not enough for modern warfare at sea. The cruisers were built without a large reserve for modernization of weapon systems, the expert explains. 50th anniversary. A Ticonderoga with weapons half a century old is not capable of performing combat missions as effectively as younger ships. A lot of money needs to be invested in modernizing the combat systems, or else her fate will be to become a floating arsenal receiving targeting missiles from other modern platforms. And it's cheaper to use crewless systems for that. The cruisers have already been replaced. For example, the Arlight Burke-class destroyer of the new Flying 3 series, Jack Lucas, will enter service in October 23. Ships of this type, in terms of combat capabilities, is on par with the cruisers of the 1980s. Yes, they are inferior in terms of missile salvo power, but they are much cheaper to maintain. In addition, there is enough space there to accommodate the Air Force and Air Defense command posts that are now on the cruisers. In addition to cruisers, 4 fast landing transports like EPF, Spearhead, Choctaw Country, Millinocket, and Fail River will succeed in 2025. These small ships of 1,500 tons displacement are used for cargo transfer in the maritime theater of war. Each takes a set of up to 600 tons of military equipment. That would leave only 10 of them in the USIC. The giants will go under the knife. In 2025, one of 7 White Bay Island, Germtown-type landing and helicopter dock landing ships, displacing more than 16,000 tons and nearly 40 years old, will be scrapped. It is noteworthy that such an old ship was supposed to serve for several more years, but the Pentagon decided to get rid of it. It's cheaper than keeping it afloat. Such ships are designed for landing of sea landing forces and transportation of troops and cargoes by sea over long distances. They take on armored vehicles, including tanks, can support the Marines with fire from deck helicopters. The ranks of literalists are also thinning. LCSs are literal combat ships. The MC writes 2 pennants at once, Jackson and Montgomery. These are relatively new ships, transferred to the fleet in 2015 and 2016 respectively. 2 First B First that went into service in 2010 and in 2014 is no longer in the lineup. Reason: a very problematic propulsion system. But Project Independence is still lucky. Just last year retired 4 LCSs of a similar and same Young Freedom project. Reasons: same technical problems. Overall, it can be stated that the U.S. Navy SAG in ship composition in 2025 will remain 287 active combat and support units. It doesn't just continue, it intensifies. The Pentagon will apparently have to forget about plans to have 350 combat-ready pennants in service for a long time. Personnel are also being reduced. For 2025, a total of 332,300 personnel, military and civilian, are scheduled to be paid. For 2024, the request assumed 347,000. Nevertheless, they promise an average 4.5% pay raise for the military and 2% for civilians, although inflation is much higher there. The U.S. Navy faced a situation typical of most navies. Decaying ships and submarines that cannot keep up with the demands of the Mike sailors, mass decommissioning of platforms that have not been tested at sea, and the outflow of specialists. And just money can't solve these problems. Now let's move on to Boeing. Ever seen an airplane's will fly off during takeoff, or a practically new airplane's door fly off in flight? I had not heard of such flying accidents until this year, but the airplanes produced by one of the most technologically powerful aircraft manufacturers in the world, the American Boeing Corporation, managed to greatly surprise the whole world within a couple of months. In early January 2024, an Alaska Airlines Boeing 737-9 MAX made an emergency landing at Portland Airport after losing its exit door. At an altitude of about 5 kilometers, none of the passengers were seriously injured. The carrier received the airplane from Boeing in November 2023. And the airplane was practically new, not one that had seen the sky in the last century. An investigation by the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board, abbreviated by the NTSB, found that 4 bolts were missing from the airplane door that came off. No sooner had the passions over this case settled, how another unpleasant thing happened to a United Airlines Boeing 777 airplane flying from San Francisco to Osaka. On takeoff, the wheel was retracted. The plane landed in Los Angeles. It went smoothly. But by saying surprise, I've softened the real effect of these events a bit. The word scare would be more appropriate. It is unlikely that a person who is now going to fly somewhere will buy a ticket with peace of mind, knowing that this flight will be operated by Boeing. I think these flying accidents scared the public a lot more than a string of Boeing crashes and disasters. There have been 14 accidents with Boeing Corporation airplanes, 7 of them crashes between 2018 and 2023, plus these 2 more in 2024. Whereas with European Airbuses there are only 6, one of them a disaster. Because it is precisely such flight accidents, though not ending tragically, that clearly demonstrate to passengers what the quality of components, production discipline, and the quality of aircraft assembly, control over the quality of this assembly and control over the quality of aircraft assembly are like. Control over the technical condition of airplanes in operation and, of course, makes them wonder. What American airplane can break off next time in flight cockpit, wings, tail, or both engines at once if suddenly the assemblers of airplanes next time do not load a few bolts fixing the engines to the pylon? However, questions about the quality of combat aircraft did not arise after these accidents, but many years ago. It was recently reported that a 62-year-old Boeing safety engineer, John Barnett, a 36-year employee of Boeing, was found dead. A former Boeing engineer who told reporters about catastrophic problems at an airplane manufacturing facility has been found dead in the United States. He was suing the company, and right before he died, he gave a deposition that he had been preparing for a long time. In North Charleston, the engineer was testifying as part of a court case against Boeing. In court, John Barnett participated in cross-examination by his own attorney and Boeing lawyers. The man was questioned on Thursday and Friday the 7th and 8th March. It lasted a long time. On March 7th, for example, Barnett answered questions for 7 hours straight. However, the collection of testimony did not end there. The engineer was additionally scheduled to make an additional court appearance in the early morning hours of March 9th, however stopped making contact. The engineer's body was discovered in his truck in the parking lot. Preliminary police say it was a suicide. But it is clear to anyone that this suicide was very timely and very much needed by the Boeing Corporation because of such a skilled job. An employee, not just any ordinary worker, but an engineer, could completely destroy the reputation of this company and cause it huge material damage. Well, if this suicide took place, then, as you understand, the problems with the quality of aircraft produced by the company really take place, and not invented by John, who during his testimony claimed that employees, under pressure, deliberately installed low-quality parts on the aircraft on the assembly line. In some cases, second-rate parts were literally pulled from scrap metal containers and then installed on airplanes under construction to avoid delays. In 2017, the FAA, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, confirmed some of his concerns and required Boeing to take action, but as you can see, no action was taken, which is what the door falling out of the new airplane showed. I guess that's why John Barnett shot himself in the head. Otherwise, Boeing Corporation could lose a significant portion of its foreign orders in 2024 following public litigation. After all, even a former employee, this company has been vocal in stating that it would not risk flying Boeing MAX airplanes. A surprise FAA inspection revealed that Boeing was not even following its own quality control procedures, and the company's stock began to plummet. In consolation, to our citizens who fly Boeing airplanes, I can inform you that, first of all flying accidents with Boeing did not happen in our country, and not with the airplanes of this company, operated by our airlines. Secondly, we are no longer buying new airplanes, and we can't buy them due to the sanctions and the fact that we have set a course to produce a line of domestic civil airplanes. And thirdly, those Boeings that we already have, we maintain independently. And even buying spare parts for our fleet of airplanes through parallel imports, it is unlikely that our technicians will allow installation of low-quality spare parts on our airplanes. Boeing's decline, among other things, is indicative of the possible loss of technology parts to the U.S. leadership because this corporation is one of its pillars. I won't say they are doing so badly, but while they delivered 806 aircraft to customers in 2018, they only delivered 528 in 2023, which, although more than 2022's 480, is a far cry from 2018's numbers. Let's see what the outcome of 2024 will be. How many companies will want to buy airplanes from this corporation after the publicized information and after the accidents that have occurred? Probably, critics will jump on us in the comments now and start sarcasm about the fact that we ourselves are not promoting the production of airplanes and the serial production of MS-21 is shifting to the right again. But we note that we need to fully import replacements for those units that were previously supplied from abroad in order to ensure full technological independence in the production of our civil aircraft, as well as to conduct a full cycle of tests of the aircraft with imported units repeatedly. And it takes time, and there is no need to be sarcastic or hysterical about it. This is necessary just to keep our airplanes from losing doors and wheels as soon as they are built.